coming up in today's episode. While consulting is, as a concept, existed for centuries, modern consulting as we know it emerged in the late 1930th century. Arthur D. Little and Frederick Winslow Taylor are considered the early pioneers of management consulting. With business landscape evolving and complex organizational challenges emerging, business leaders continue to seek out expert advice to navigate challenges and capitalize on new opportunities. Today, management consulting is a multi-billion-dollar business. Welcome to Real Talk Exchange, created to amplify the voice of the employee by sharing experiences and different perspectives in the world of work. Through these employee insights, the intention is to reshape our world of work. In today's episode of Career Spotlight, my guest, Morgan Mukendi, who is based out in Bahrain, will focus on management consulting as a career choice. Whether you're looking to enter the market, change careers, or simply curious about management consulting. Hello, Morgan. Highly favored and blessed. How are you doing today?
As you said, highly favored and blessed. I'm doing good. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for actually agreeing to take part in this conversation. Let's just probably kick off with the question, your very early times. When did you start thinking that management consulting is what you want to do? Is there anything in particular while you were growing up that really prepared you for this role or triggered your interest?
To be honest with you, growing up, management consulting was not even in my sights. The passion for consulting started in 2019. However, prior to that, I think let me just give you a bit of a background as to basically how it all came about. So of course, primary school happened, high school happened, varsity. So as we come to varsity, HR basically wasn't even my first choice. HR, well, studying HR was actually my third choice. Initially, my first choice in terms of studying was actually architectural studies. So I actually wanted to become an architect. Well, that didn't happen. Second choice, believe it or not, was actually marketing, which until today actually kind of shocks me because I was like, wow, me marketing? Okay, okay, cool. So when I went to the university to actually change my course from architectural studies to marketing, I got at the university and they were like, all management courses have been filled up. The only one that is open is HR. So I was like, you know what? I'm taking this as a sign of God as to this is where I need to be placed and this is where I need to be. So that's how my journey within HR started. I did my undergrad and my postgrad in human resource management. To be honest with you, it's very theoretical. So at that point in time, I didn't really see the love and the passion, or even the drive within HR, because it's just theory until I started working, and that's when I started falling in love with HR, starting to apply everything that I was learning within the different courses within the HR scope. But then, starting off as a generalist HR professional, I realized that I actually really enjoy talking. Like, I thoroughly enjoy talking to people. And at that point, at I think mid or early 2019, that's when I made the transition into management consulting, because I was like, okay, this is a new opportunity. This is a new challenge that I've never done before. So I went into management consulting not knowing anything about management consulting. I literally took the leap of faith. And I think what is it now? 5 years later? Yeah.
What do you think are the skills required or knowledge or expertise launched into a career such as management consulting? I mean, obviously in your case, you are specializing in HR. What does it take to be successful in that space?
To be successful in the space of whether it's HR or management consulting in general, I think number one, you have to have the inner drive within you, ability to speak. And when I say speak, it's just the ability not even to convince people, but to speak in a sense of empathy. Management consulting for me is really about being able to relate to the person that you're speaking to. And through that relating, they will be, of course, in a position of comfort and be able to relate back to you. For me, honestly speaking, it really doesn't take a genius to be a management consultant. You just need to be solution orientated and be able to relate. Those are, for me, the two top skills to be successful in management consulting, and also just to learn. I think the scope of learning is endless. You literally learn something new every day. And I mean, I'll take myself for example. I came into management consulting not knowing the first thing about whether it's business development, whether it's sales, or just the work that a management consultant does in general. But I was lucky enough to have great mentors and people that have walked before me and just guide me in those footsteps. And that's just a few things that I would give off to whoever that wants to look into management consulting as a career.
So if somebody was, as you say, were looking to move into or choose a career in management consulting, what's your typical day in the office look like?
Sure. Honestly, it depends on the organization that you're working for. And the reason why I say that is prior to my current workplace, I was in management consulting, but what that typically looked like is, number one, you're always on the phone. You're with clients, whether it's helping them solve an issue or trying to sell something to them, number one. Number two, you're constantly sending emails. So I think an important skill to have with that is just having good business etiquette, just business writing skills. That's very important. Another thing about management consulting, be willing to move around. It requires a lot of traveling, whether it's in country, outside of the country. And by that, it's basically just meeting with clients. The same clients you speak to, especially as African people, we take business seriously when it's face to face. So we can have conversations over the phone, but that deal will be signed when I see you face to face and I put a face to the name. So be willing to travel. And they always have an open mind, because management consulting, it's basically about projects. From the one project to the next project, be solution orientated, as I mentioned, be willing to always be on the move, have good business etiquette, and get ready to be on the phone constantly.
When you talk about be solution orientated, what are you talking about exactly? Can you define it for somebody who's just finished high school or is in high school and looking at their options? What is being solution driven?
So being solution driven basically means, don't come with a problem. When there's a problem, try solve it yourself. Once you feel like you're really stuck, then present it to your superior, whatever the case is, and then you can try to work it out together. So that's basically the essence of being solution orientated or solution driven. Try to come up with the answer to whatever problem it is by yourself, whether it's through research, through reading, calling a friend before. If you find that you're stuck at a certain place and you've really exhausted all your options in terms of finding a solution, then you can, of course, bring in your manager or whatever the case is to find a solution.
It sounds like somebody actually needs to be constantly upgrading, whether in terms of knowledge or really being a curious learner. In your instance, then, as a management consultant, you mentioned that you would talk to your connections. So it sounds like networking is also quite key in building a successful career. What other resources do you use to continue staying up to date with whatever changes that are happening in the world?
There's quite a few different options that you can look at in terms of being up to speed. There's, of course, the news that you watch every day, whether it's your BBC, whether it's your Al Jazeera. So there's that. There's, of course, research online. But the best form of research or best way of keeping up to speed with the industry is through conversations with people. And these people are your clients, because they are on the ground. They know exactly what is happening. So they are the best people to advise you as to what is happening within the industry. That boils down to networking as well. Management consultants, if you are literally behind your desk 24/7, not talking to clients and not basically making connections, then we need to relook at basically your scope of responsibilities there. So those are the things that would help one in terms of keeping up to date with what is happening in the industry.
Great. I think these different skills are transferable from different careers, from one career to another. But for then somebody who, like we mentioned, who's starting out, are there any specific qualifications that they need to study towards in order for them to actually launch a career in management consulting?
I feel like there's no right or wrong answer to this question. However, from my experience and from what I've seen with my colleagues, a lot of people I'm surrounded by within the management consulting space are either HR graduates, economics, accounting. Those are the three that I've seen a lot. However, that doesn't stop anyone that has even studied like an industrial psychology or communications or arts or whatever the case is. That doesn't stop anyone from trying their luck in management consulting, because at the end of the day, it's not about the qualification. It's about how you are able to speak, connect, and just network with people.
Having been in the industry, the years that you have, if somebody is looking at developing their career, what are the sort of stages one has to go through? I mean, where do you start and build your career, and what's the ultimate?
It honestly depends on the organization, because different organizations have different steps and different ladders. However, starting off early in your career, and maybe say your first job is within management consulting, you just be prepared to start off at the first level. The first level is usually like an analyst. Depending on the organization, they'll call it an analyst or they'll call it an intern. So it really depends on the organization. However, that is usually the first level that you'll start at. And once again, depending on the organization's performance management in terms of how soon you can move into the next level, whether it's 2 years or it's 3 years, that is dependent. But the first level, usually you'll start off as an intern or you start off as an analyst.
Okay. And what would be the ultimate level? I mean, would you become the senior partner? What would that look like?
The top level within management consulting, again, it depends on the organization, but we're usually looking at head of departments or principal consultants, or some organizations have a managing partner. So that is like the top level. When you get to that level, basically, you can call yourself a CEO if you want. Basically, just to give you a bit of a reference as to what level you'll be at.
Tell us about one project that you are super proud of when you look back and you think, I can really give myself a pat on the back. Job well done, son.
Yeah. I would say one of the ones that I can remember literally off the top of my head, we were having a team meeting. And wait, before I get to that, the project itself was basically what we call a bespoke survey. But basically, we would have a survey that is within the timeline. So beginning of the year to end of the year, annual a survey that we usually run, every year we know, or the usual cycle, if I can call it. And this survey or this project basically was outside of the cycle, and it was just for a small country that wasn't really making a lot of money for the organization. So myself and another colleague, we approached one of the financial service organizations to gather everyone else within that industry and have the survey done. So, I mean, that's, for me, it was a very successful project, not only because it helped the organization get money, but it also helped the people that were part of this project, being the clients, understand what is happening within the industry, within the country, and basically within the sector in general. So I remember having a team meeting with the whole team, and our principal consultant was like, "Okay, guys, we are literally $15,000 short to meet our target for this quarter." And I was like, hold on a second. We just concluded a project which was literally $15,000 on the mark. And I kid you not, the principal lead literally jumped out of excitement and started celebrating by herself. Cool. And that for me was so satisfying because I felt like I made such a difference, whether it was internally with my internal stakeholders, but also externally with my clients. So for me, that's one of the biggest achievements that I've had in my career. A second big achievement that I feel like I'm really proud of, that I even put on my CV because I'm that proud of it. It was basically but I literally helped change the face of HR for one of the organizations I was working for. And how I did that was literally by just being myself. I think that's one of the other things that I'd advise anyone that is trying to move into management consulting or any career. Always be yourself, be your authentic self. And how I did that was basically by asking anyone, how are you doing? And you would be surprised as to how far that question can go. Because a lot of the times within the organization, we are so busy, we're so caught up with different things. No one really takes the time to just ask someone, how you doing? How can I help you? And so forth. Because in a lot of organizations, HR is seen as the bad guy. The people that fire you, the people that reprimand you, there's always a bad connotation to HR in general. So at that point, I took it upon myself to be like, okay, I want to change that. I want to change the face of HR. And how I did that was literally walking around the floor, asking random people how they're doing, how we can help, what can we do differently, and so forth. And what makes me proud of that is the fact at a global town hall, I was basically recognized for changing how people view HR within the organization globally. And it was to a point where the global CEO even asked me, like, what is it that I'm doing different? Because I mean, there's HR within the organization in different locations. However, this company within South Africa is doing something different. What are we doing different, and how can I help the other HR departments within the other locations start doing the same thing? So that is something that really, to this day, really stays with me in my heart. And yeah, those are, I think, the two biggest achievements I would say.
Good. I almost want to ask you, how then are you translating that into your management consulting role?
I am. I am indeed. And how I'm doing that is literally by, so okay, so I'm going to give a bit of a background story with the type of person that I am. So I'm
Yeah.
the type of person that, as much as management consulting puts you in the limelight because, you know, you're literally client facing, I'm one of those people. As much as I am within that role, I also can be very good at playing the background role as well, helping whoever I need to help and equip them with whatever tools they need in order for them to go out and be the best version of themselves, whether it's with clients or within the workplace themselves. So now within management consulting, how I'm doing that is basically the same concept, just with my colleagues. Because I already know that, okay, um, I'm at the level that I'm at. However, anyone that is coming into the industry or coming into the organization, number one, I don't want them to have any type of bad experience that I might have had when I have joined. So I always take it upon myself to ensure that they never go through whatever it is that I went through. So if it's to train them, if it's to advise them, or just help them wherever I can, I will literally put my work aside for however long and ensure that, okay, whether it's an hour I spend with them, I will equip them with whatever it is that they need in order for them to start off or to support them in the meeting or whatever the case is. So that's what I've taken from my, I guess, my previous life of HR into management consulting.
Sounds like it's a necessary skill actually to even succeed even in management consulting, where they're transferring that skill and the knowledge that you've acquired into the management consulting space and making sure then that your team is also succeeding. That sounds great. I want to talk about, because we've talked about the highs. What are the
Yeah.
lows? What are the pitfalls of management consulting?
Oh, the pitfalls of management consulting. I guess it's one off is just fear. I think fear is something that holds us back as humans in general from accomplishing something we didn't even think we could accomplish. For me, I can only base it off on my own experience, but for me, in coming into management consulting, one of my setbacks is the fear of the present. And when I
The
say the
fear
fear of
of
the
the,
present,
say that again.
um,
Um,
the fear of the present, just being within the present, the present moment. And one of those fears is just not trusting yourself enough to take the leap of faith. That is one of the setbacks as a management consultant in general. The other one is consulting. As I previously said, you need to be your authentic self and you need to put yourself out there. That is the only way you're going to make a success.
What is putting yourself out there? I hear that expression mentioned a lot, and I need us to unpack because we use these buzzwords that, oh, you need to put yourself out there. Can we help people who have no concept or no idea, or they could actually interpret it differently? What is putting yourself out there?
Okay, definitely. So for me, putting yourself out there, number one, it starts off with my favorite quote. And this is a quote that I have literally moved with me every day since lockdown 2020. It's a quote from a book that I read. The book is called How to Unlock Your Potential by Miles Monroe. And the quote is, there's nothing named can't. You might not know how to do something, but you can always I take with me every day. And basically unpacking that basically means getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that will make you uncomfortable because number one, that is also going to help you learn. And number two, you're going to make mistakes. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's something I actually read today that basically said that in life there is achievements and there are mistakes, but there are no failures because you don't fail. You learn from that experience because it's a mistake and you move, but it's not a failure. It's a learning curve. So that is exactly what that means. Putting yourself out there basically means getting outside of your comfort zone and doing something that you won't necessarily always do. And management consulting requires that in the sense that you need to be forward. And by forward, you need to let me paint a different scenario. Inviting yourself to the table, basically, is what putting yourself out there means. You might not have received an invite to sit by the table. You invite yourself. But when you sit at the table, leave with something valuable. Leave them with a food for thought. Don't just add yourself to the table and just be part of the furniture. No. Put yourself there and ensure that once you leave, they are still going to be talking about you the next day or 2 days later, because when you're on top of mind, whatever problem that a client may have, you are the first person they're going to think of. You're like, I remember that guy Morgan. That guy was just so disruptive. He came to sit, but he left us with something to think about, and he might be able to help us solve this issue we have. Let me give him a call. So that's basically what it means.
So I'm gonna go and ask us to go a bit deeper because again, we say invite yourself to the table, make yourself heard. How do you prepare yourself to actually be heard at the table? What does that entail? Does that mean prepare for the meeting, get some research done, don't go there without your facts? Like, what is it? Bring a point of view. What is it that you really must do to actually then be present and be prepared and sit at the table and contribute to the conversation?
I think it's exactly what you just mentioned, bringing your point of view. That is what the management consultant does. As much as they bring solutions to the table, they also bring their point of view. And that is literally what makes clients trust you as a consultant, bringing your point of view. Because, I mean, anyone can tell you that, the sky is blue, for instance. However, when when you are relatable and you bring your point of view and you let them know that yes, the sky is blue. However, I think that ABC, you bring in your point of view, and they listen and be like, oh, okay, he's telling us the obvious. However, he's putting it in a way that brings a different dynamic to it, and that is what I appreciate the most within management consulting.
Yeah, because the sky is not blue at night, right? It's so dark. Always got starry skies or something.
Exactly.
So, tell us about what you don't enjoy about your job. What is it that you don't enjoy about management
Oh
consulting?
man. Okay, I know. I think, and I think it's because of the space I come from, being, a support role within HR to this. The one thing I don't enjoy about management consulting is you never see something to the end, because management
Ah,
consulting, a lot of it is project based. So you will go to a client, you will help them solve their problems and somewhat to a certain extent help them implement it. But you don't see the effects of it, whether it's a year later or whatever the case is, because you've already moved on to the next project. So I think that's the one thing I don't like about management consulting, because I want to treat my projects as my baby. I want to see
mm.
how it starts and how it ends. However, with management consulting, you'll see how it starts and you'll see the middle of it, and you'll see like one version of the end, but not the full version. So yeah,
Mm.
that's the one thing I don't necessarily enjoy about management consulting.
Okay. uh, that's very interesting. Can we? I think we'll probably now need to go probably out a little bit, although still within the management consulting space, to talk about.
Yeah.
We've talked about how businesses are evolving, and management consulting is not immune to that. In your
Mm.
view, and where you've been, I mean, and just looking back in your career as well, what do you think are the major disruptions in management consulting, and possibly what the future is likely to look like? Is there a future for management consulting?
Um, there is a future for management consulting, and the reason why I say that there is because of where the world of work is. Well, the world in general, not even the world of work, where the world is moving, and the way the world is
Mm.
moving is towards artificial intelligence. Um, it is something that I am not the most skilled in yet. However, within my current role, I'm starting to see a lot of AI coming in into play. Whether it's through your chat boxes, these AI tools that basically help you write anything and everything. I see it a lot within management consulting, to a point whereby these things can even write business proposals for you. So I think at some points there are certain roles that are going to be very AI based. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just so crazy because literally I was in bed with the wife this morning, and I came through I came across some article on LinkedIn that mentioned that by the year 2027, a lot of roles, job titles are going to change. And these job titles
Mm.
are going to start with AI in the front. It's going to be like AI management consultant, AI
Mm.
HR business partner. Everything is like
Mm.
AI, and that is a huge, huge disruptor in the market space, in the industries, very huge. So I think I'm going to leave it with that one,
Mm.
because that's the present and that's the future we're going towards.
It sounds for me, it sounds very exciting because I love I love AI, and to a degree I guess technology has a great appeal to me. I mean, here we are doing doing an online interview when you're sitting in Bahrain, I'm sitting in South
True.
Africa.
Yeah.
and
Very true.
and yeah, and some of the the concept actually even of putting together this podcast, it was to a degree researched using AI to just better understand, how do I tackle this? How do I ask this? How do I do it better? And
Yeah.
obviously, at the end of the day, using my own experience and expertise and knowledge. But the interaction or the alignment or the collaboration between human and AI or technology, however you want to look at it, it's relevant, it's true, it's there. So I think whichever role we are taking or career option we are choosing, we must honestly consider the impact and disruption of technology. So totally, I'm glad to hear that that's also
Definitely.
happening in the management space. So we must stay on top of that.
Definitely.
One other thing, I think I remember when growing up, and it was probably the other company, the other very well known management consulting firm, and I think also
Yeah.
entertainment or in terms of media also painted a certain perception about management consulting. What would you say is the misconception about management consulting? The one thing that is just so wrong that we have a perception of about management consulting.
One of the biggest misconceptions of management consulting, which I have heard over the years, is the fact that management consultants are just basically all about the money.
Not true?
For me personally, it's not true. Um,
Okay.
it's one of those things of, oh, you've got ABC company helping you. Ah, okay. They're probably just, doing what they're doing just because, of course, they want the money. Once they get the money, you won't hear from them again. And I think that's the one thing that I also battle with, because I'm just like, okay, I understand, yes, it's a lot of project-based work. However, that doesn't mean it'll be the last you hear from me. So for me, I always take offense to that, to be honest with you, because I really, I like, no, honestly, like I really do my work with all of my heart. Like I care about whether it's my clients or the work that I'm doing.
Mm.
So yes, money, it's an additional benefit, if I can call it. However, for
Mm.
someone that really loves what they do, they won't really look at it from a monetary perspective. They will look at it from the perspective of helping the person with the current need.
Mhm.
Once that need has been done, just following up with them in terms of making sure that, okay, it's still in place, what else they can help with, where else can they help them improve with anything else. The money will do this. So that's one of the misconceptions for me that should really be thrown out the window.
I'm glad to hear that because I mean, some of us are driven by purpose, right? It's the one thing that makes us jump out of
Exactly.
bed and not the money pay. I mean, the money is good; it does what it needs to do, but you know, let
Definitely.
it be beyond the money. All right. For somebody starting out, what advice would you give them? Just I think in closing, for somebody starting out or somebody that's looking at changing
Yeah.
careers, what advice would you give them in terms of pursuing a career in management consulting?
The one thing that I mentioned, I would leave number one, my favorite quote. I think this quote basically is applicable for every aspect of your life. That being, of course, there's nothing in can't. So how I apply that is, us as humans, we always get to a point where we might be doing something and it's always a thing of, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. The minute you tell yourself, or the minute you utter those words, whether it's verbally or in your mind, this is what I want whoever is starting off in their career to remember. The minute you say, I can't do this, always remember, there is nothing named can't. You might not know how to do something, but you can always learn. That is the first word of advice that I would leave anyone with, whether you're moving into management consulting or you're starting to become a doctor, whatever the case is. Number two, for me, honestly speaking, it is, of course, bring your authentic self when you start off and throughout your career, and never burn your bridges. And the reason why I say that is one day in life, you never know when those same bridges are going to help you get to the next phase of your life or the next phase of your career. So those are the two things I would leave anyone starting off in their careers.
Fantastic. I've got one more question before we say goodbye. What's next for
Sure.
you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, what's next for me is, okay, so now, I'm still enjoying being in Bahrain, but what is next for me is unfortunately leaving the management consulting space. And for me, you know, that's basically the next step. And it's because, I've become a new dad and just want to give more time back to my wife, to the family. So for me, the next step is moving back into core HR, or rather support HR, as they call it, because one thing about management consulting is it will take a lot of your time as well. So for me, now that I've gotten to this stage of my personal life, I feel like now is the right time to give more time back to the family and still continue with my career, but now not having external clients, but having internal clients. So my management consulting will be the organization that I work for. So yeah, that's the next step for me.
That sounds exciting. And I wish you all the best, Morgan, in your next chapter. And I really appreciate you for
Thank you.
spending the time with us, spending the time with me. And if anything else,
No, thank you.
no,
Always a
no, no,
pleasure.
no. I need to thank you because this is the first venture that I'm taking on. You haven't seen me doing anything like this, except maybe for webinars and stuff like that. And you literally trusted me to help you tell your story somewhat, and in the same breath fulfill my dreams of actually of actually sharing information with the rest of the world and people who are looking at starting a new career
Yeah.
or changing careers. Like, I, if anyone is highly favored and blessed, it's me. From you. I really appreciate it.